Brooklyn's historic The Black Lady Theater is now taking bookings. Host your next birthday party, concert, networking event, baby or bridal shower, wedding, art show, gala, corporate event, live stage play, audition, and so much more. At the one and only The Black Lady Theater. Mention code GODCAST for 15% off your rental fee. Code good for the first time customers only. Valid for a limited time. Call 718-771-0900 to book your event today.
Peace. Today is Wednesday, August 7th, making today's math.
God.
That's right. God is the original supreme being, black man, the original man of the planet Earth. Peace. Welcome back to Yanadameen Godcast. I'm Lord Jamar.
I'm Digga.
We have special guests with us. To my right, the Grammy award-winning Grandmixer DXT in the house. Yep. Giving us an education on early hip-hop and its formations. And we were talking before the break, we were talking about, some of the not so well known, DJs
with the hot
and,
takes.
especially coming from Westchester, and you were kind of setting it up of why it might, why they might not be, as put up there as some
as
other
chronicled as
people.
Well,
history.
like I said, what I was previously trying to do is set up the context to the behavior so you can understand why our brothers feel that way. They feel that as long as they don't mention other people, the story remains. They don't want the story to change because it's their story.
Okay, let me ask you now. When you say they, are you referring to like what we know in history now? Hip hop started in the Bronx and those chronicles.
Hip hop, for the most part, is now a myth. Most of it. The forefathers.
Okay.
DJ Smoke is not. No one even heard of him. And he's here before Kool Herc. He's playing beats, but he doesn't have a formidable sound system.
Okay.
And so that takes nothing from Kool Herc because Kool Herc comes with the terminology that makes it all work. And this is why we refer to him as the father. But there's Disco King Mario. He's also
Now, I've heard that name before.
The problem is, again, nomenclature. So the terminology causes people to sever certain things away because they adhere to the terminology. The Brothers Disco, which was one of the most formidable hip-hop groups of all time, but you don't hear about them because they have disco in their name. And so there was a time where disco didn't mean European four-on-the-floor style music.
Right.
It meant this is where you go to hear music.
Right.
And we are the people who provide music. Our disco crew, a discotheque, an environment where you hear loud music. And again, we're listening to soul music, generations older than disco. But people keep saying, disco came in and then hip-hop came in. Hip-hop is a term. The music is soul music. And it may have had another name before we called it soul music. But it is our ancestral music and our cultural wealth, which becomes an issue that we should acknowledge and definitely pay attention to when it comes to the monetary gains of what we're referring to as the hip-hop culture. So our brothers who, and it's done innocently. Like some of them are doing it purposely just to keep the story the same way it is, especially if their name is in it. They don't want to change that, and so they don't allow other information to come in, and they do it by plausible denial. If you don't ask them, they're not going to volunteer it.
Right.
When all of these museums are popping up all over the place, it's the same people, the same stories, And so here's a brother named Rah Digga, who was part of Smokey's crew before everybody, before Flash, before all that. He moves to Mount Vernon. And I end up meeting him. And Smokey was one of my heroes. And he became my hero after he got blown out the gym by Kool Herc. But it's what he did after that is made him a hero to me, because he went to his block. He said, that's the first time I heard somebody use the term "to the break of dawn." He said, I'm going to be at 167th and Grant to the break of dawn. And so, or 69th or 67th and Grant. And we all went there, all of us, nomadic B-boys, went to Grant. Okay. And the whole block was abandoned, entire block, from corner to corner. So he was squatting. And the cars were all abandoned. And he put his speakers out the window, and he started playing his beats. And we was sitting on the abandoned cars. Some of us were still breaking on the sidewalk. The buildings were squeaking, you know what I'm saying? Until the sun came up. I was like, wow, that's deep. He actually played till the break of dawn.
Till the break of dawn, for real.
That was and he became a hero of mine from that day. I did not meet Rob that day. I didn't see him that day. And Smokey lost that battle. He got destroyed. I mean, he got blown out the gym. No one can mess with her. And so Rob moves to Mount Vernon, and he's seen me play. I originally went up to Mount Vernon to join the Collins brothers because they were my age. Rob is old. He already had a beard. We were like 15 and 16. This guy had a full beard. I'm not messing with him, And so I got on their set, and I was playing beats, and they said, yo, get off. Like, what are you playing? They didn't know at the time. And so they took me off, and he came up to me, and he said, hey, man, they don't play that up here, but I got some of those records you could play with me. And that's how I got into the whole Mount Vernon scene. But believe it or not, Mount Vernon and Westchester had a talent thing going on where it was a lot of talented people there. There's a lot of talented people in Westchester. And by me spending more time up there, I got to see that, man, a lot of these people are really talented up here. And I came from a musical family also. And so, and my aunts and uncles lived in Mount Vernon, but I was isolated when I was with them, and they were musicians. But then I realized there was a lot more talented people. And so, when I started forming my first group, I actually tried to get Raheem, who, from the Furious Five.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sean talked.
Yeah. Again, he was in the
He
Funky Four.
I tried to get him before he went to the Funky
And then before he went to the Funky Four.
Yeah, see, most of the rap groups.
People loved Raheem, huh?
I'm gonna explain why.
He had the bars.
Most of the groups formed from what schools you went to. So I went to Truman, and Shaheem and Raheem went to Truman. And I noticed they started rhyming. They wasn't into it yet. But then when I started seeing them in the ciphers, doing their little storybook rhymes and Rudy Ray Moore stuff, because nobody was really rhyming on beat at the time. It was more toasting, Signify Monkey, Last Poets. Only the so-called disco scene was rhythmically rhyming, and they don't want to give them credit for that. Hollywood was doing that. The hip-hop scene was not doing that, I repeat. The hip-hop scene was not rhyming on beat.
No, it was more or less like call and response in the parties,
full moon
right?
In the middle of June in the summer of '59. I was young and cool, shot a bad game of pool. You know what I'm saying? It was more of that kind of toasting thing. It was the disco, so-called disco scene where they was rhythmically rhyming. Lovebug Starsky is the first guy who went on both sides of the fence. And so he's the one who communicated that into the hip-hop scene through Cowboy from Grandmaster Flash and Furious 5. Now, when I started my group, there was no Funky Four. And so the Funky Four was just forming. And so we were all trying to form groups at at that time. So I was trying to form the Infinity Four, but that was in Westchester. They don't know about that. See what I'm saying? So I tried to get Raheem, Shaheem. I had Baby T, she's from Edenwall, and Al B, who was also from Edenwall. For whatever reason, Raheem ends up auditioning for the Funky Four at Boston Secor. I went there to support him, and I was disappointed, but because he was special. And to his credit, Raheem was the first MC to come along and change the game.
Okay. He had the routines, yes?
The Funky Four, that was Darnell. That was Breakout's brother, who really shaped them into what you see. But Raheem was one of the first with long-form rhyming. Shaheem, if you haven't heard, I know you know Shaheem from the Infinity Four. Those two were the first two people I saw who really developed long-form rhyming. To this day, my personal opinion is that Shaheem is one of the best lyricists ever. But he never broke through, never got his shine. But lyrically, it's just another level, another skill set that where he goes with his writing ability. And so Raheem was also into it like that. But what made Raheem special is that he was the first LL Cool J. He was the first crooner MC, where he can get up there by himself and have all the women screaming, just his whole vibe, his presence, his style, his ability to control the mic.
And he's a 5%er, yes?
I don't know if he was.
Yeah, he was.
A lot of people started using those names just so they didn't get beat up.
Oh, I heard that he was God. They said Raheem was God.
I don't know if he did.
And Shaheem, that sounds like God.
I never seen them do any of that, so I don't know.
Okay.
And I don't know if they did it so they didn't get beat up either.
Right,
I don't know.
I feel like that was a trend at that time. If like all the women that are born in that era, like all of us are named Rashida, Hadiva, Karima, Zaida. Like
I grew up in Edenwall, and it was unfortunately savagery. It was just crazy.
So before we get how did you go from being, this famous street DJ to now hooking up with Herbie Hancock? Where did that come into play?
That was the Roxy's. And because the Roxy's became the mecca for celebrities, all of the A-list actors and the biggest artists, that's where they went to spend their nightlife in New York. So we're sitting there, Robert De Niro is sitting there, and it was bugged out to me because, I was like, okay, I'm doing this, and this guy now, he talks to me, he says hi.
Right.
Robert, hey, how you doing, man? You're the guy that's up there. Yeah, okay.
So
now
listen,
I'm curious.
Yeah.
I have a question. Now you mentioned terminology and I guess history being chronicled a certain way. Do you feel like there are people in other regions that might feel the same way? Like I'm sure there's like a DJ or, someone who would consider themselves an MC in California. Like, hold up, I was doing that before. Cool. How does the Bronx get the credit for that? And,
It's,
do you have stories?
Yeah, the reason why that is, again, it's nomenclature and it's the terminology. Once the terminology hits the wire and it circulates, its origin becomes the target of information. And so all of the journalists went to the Bronx to find out what this was. And it snowballed from there because, one, they went to the wrong people and asked the wrong questions. And if you want to be part of a story, you're going to go along with the narrative, whether it's the truth or not.
Right.
And so that's what happened. So no one mentions DJ Smoke, who Flash was his record boy. No one mentions Mario. No one mentions the Brothers Disco, which that's the funky.
And listen, there was DJs in Brooklyn. There was Queens,
Jersey.
I don't know about Jersey.
There's the debate.
Look, don't do it.
There's the debate about
Jersey, not yet. Not in the 70s.
Yeah, the 70s.
I don't know about these type of DJs.
Well, put it this way.
Y'all was spinning around the disco because y'all was really, because you was about to get into house and shit. So y'all was still hard with the disco.
And the first real hip hop label was formed in Jersey, so yeah. You hold that. Yes,
Whoa.
What?
Nomenclature. No, they was not the first. Enjoy and things like that was before Sugar Hill Records.
Absolutely.
And we have a descendant of Sugar Hill coming up next.
Yeah, we do. Yes. And she can set the record straight.
She's like, I'm not sure about that.
Those are arguments.
I wasn't there.
Those are arguments that you really can't make any of those arguments because you don't know the actual history of what records.
That's
These are
right.
the ones you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Rah Digga.
These are the ones we know. But Pygmy Markham was rhyming, and he made a record. So what label was that?
Right.
Right.
And so, you see what I'm saying?
Oh,
and Cap
Pig Feet
Calloway
Records.
This is what I'm saying. And so that's what we do without consciously recognizing that we keep severing ourselves from what happened before us because we did not know. And we built this solely on what we experienced. And there's something special about that we ignore, that we were able to reconnect to an energy that is so ancient. And despite the institutionalized racism and everything, we still came through it. This is who we are. And that leads us into why they do what they do based on who we are. And we have to start looking at that so we can understand why they do what they do.
We had that conversation in our last week's segment about how the disconnect between the old and the new and how it's almost like purposely designed to keep us to keep us from teaching our youth.
And in this interview I did recently, I mentioned that we did not commercially use the term hip hop until '92, and there was an uproar, but no one went and did the research. I said that because I did the research, and I was in the record. I was at Sony at the time, and it was rap.
Wait, repeat this
rap.
again.
The terminology hip hop was not commercially used until '92.
Really?
We used it,
right?
But the industry did not use it. They used rap. Record stores, rap. Yo MTV, rap. Everything was rap. '92 is when they commercially made the change.
Accepted it.
Well, because they recognized the full package. And once they recognize the full package, then they know how to socially engineer it. And at that point, it's no longer ours anyway.
Gotcha.
And so we can now look back at that and see how from that time to now, the hip-hop culture has been weaponized. And the gun is pointed at in the mirror or at yourself. You see what I'm saying? And so this phenomena that I'm explaining on how we missed the point of connecting ourselves to the past is how they were able to weaponize hip-hop today. And so what we have to do is now take it back. That's a fight. And most of us don't want to fight because we're too busy trying to be pretty.
Let me ask this. Could we use that, could we turn that what you deem as being a negative thing into a positive, almost like us pinpointing the evolutions of of rap and hip hop? Because I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Like right now, I'm hearing a conversation as far as like the females in hip hop. There's a big discussion now about like a lot of the females are mostly, sexually overt, and is this considered hip hop? And I've heard people say that maybe this is a category that we could call now exotic dance rap.
That's what they call it, stripper rap.
Or stripper rap.
Well,
Strap.
But I'm saying that on a more formal level, just giving it its respect for what it is. If it was to have a formal category name and it was called something like exotic dance rap, wouldn't that almost be like a positive in a sense of, okay, this is that, not taking away from what a Bahamadia does or what a Jean Grey does or what, or the females that don't do that. So it's almost like giving things its own subcategory or subgenre, and actually like just pinpointing in time, like, okay, this was something that got popular in this era, this is something that got popular in this era, this is something that got popular in this era. So it encompasses everything without, without, I guess, eradicating the past. Is that a way to turn this into a positive?
I would agree with you if we had control of what is channeled to our children. We don't have control of that. So there's no way you can create that genre that won't end up at a 5-year-old on their way to school hearing that. There's no way to do that. And that's the war. And so, we have young people going to school 8:30 in the morning, hearing songs called Molly Percocet. And let a nigga try me, I'm gonna kill his whole family. And that brings us back to the terminology. The term hip hop was a pejorative. It was a negative term. It was not a good term. And somehow we paste it on top of our expression, and we somehow psychologically try to accept it as good when it never was. And so it's doing what it was meant to do as a term. I think our biggest problem is that we truly don't understand what the English language is and how it affects us and how we use it. We actually dream in English. That's a big problem. And our whole thing is expressing ourselves through oratorial skills. And we're using a language that we truly don't really understand because we're still in the same condition we're in. No matter who's at the podium, nothing changes. And so we see these few monetary gains, which, if you understand the social engineering aspect of it, that's a necessary process to make everyone believers. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so to have a strip rap, and I'm not laughing at what you're saying. I'm laughing at the whole picture. We're all comedians, all of us, because we know that this is wrong, and we play this game to get the access to materialistic gains so that we can feel better about ourselves. And at what point do we, you know what I'm saying? At what point do we go, look what's going on outside? You got kids murdering each other without thinking twice and don't care and creating ghosts all over the place.
Listen, unfortunately, we're running out of time. You seem like a wealth of wisdom
we should
and
just
knowledge.
Make this a second segment.
Huh?
I say we should just make this a second segment.
Yeah, it probably already did. It's that long. Yeah. But what I'm saying is there a place where people can, hear your thoughts, or maybe you have some writings or something that the people can benefit from your knowledge, wisdom, and understanding?
Yes. Where are you right now?
And how can the people contact you? Social media, all of that stuff.
Grandmixer DXT on all social media platforms. We started a cycling team, and it's called Team Hip Hop.
Okay.
And as much as I beat,
I ride a bike. I like to cycle.
Yeah. Well, don't say that if you.
I'm dead ass.
Okay. Well, this October, y'all all hear him, right? I am officially knighting you a member of Team Hip Hop.
Oh shit.
The first ride.
Okay. Well, how far we got to go?
It's 40 miles.
Whoa.
Yeah. He still owe me a Jeopardy challenge, so.
The Bronx, it's a 45
I might have to
mile
train
bike
for that
ride.
one.
You got to train, bro.
Yeah.
Pooh said he was riding this year. I know. He said, yo, man, I'm joining.
Now, at least I have a bike, okay? That's all I can say.
we gonna talk,
at least I got a bike.
But Team Hip Hop, the cycling is a metaphor for the cavalry. We don't own horses, so we ride bikes. And so we come into your town and bring knowledge, wisdom, understanding, education, alternative to violence, knowledge of self, but the real knowledge of self, not taking anything from anyone who uses that terminology for whatever they use it for. But we're trying to rebalance our structure in our civilization the way it's supposed to be. We have, unfortunately, seen the world through a European worldview that makes our entire process a patriotic process. If you do not put your queen in her right place, you cannot survive. And our issues is based on us following a system that does not support the women. It's a system that puts the women down there and puts the man up here. It is might makes right. And that unbalances our relationship with the only way we can exist.
Woo, say it louder for the people in the back, man.
Yo, clap it up for that. Ain't no better way to end off than that. Listen, my brother.
Yes, sir.
You told me social media and stuff?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Grandmaster DXT.
It was Grandmixer. But I was about to tell the story about how my turtle got killed.
Oh, you see what I'm saying? You're a wealth of information, and it's just too much for the time that we have.
The TV man came and stepped on my turtle when I was like 4.
Listen. Thank you.
Possibly.
Thank you so much, my brother, for coming by, man, and sharing your knowledge with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Man, it was beautiful.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Grandmixer DXT.
Yeah.
Yanadameen Godcast. We'll be back.